Hello everyone and Assalamu alaikum. This is Introduction to Psychology Part 2 by General Knowledge. Okay, so we have started the chapter of learning in which we have learned lots of topics. So let me share a chapter overview with you all. So these are the topics which we will be covering in the chapter of learning, and if I give you a quick recap on what we have covered so far, so we have covered the lesson one, which was about the definition of learning, and in which we started with a case study, and then we discussed the definition of learning. Then we learned about every single word that was used, every single term that was used in the definition of learning. We had a detailed discussion on that. Then the lesson 2 is about the types of learning, but the lesson 2 is a bit detailed one, so that's why I divided the lesson 2 into different parts. Lesson 2 part 1 is about the classical conditioning, and lesson 2 part 2 is about the operant conditioning. Again, the part 1 was getting very detailed, so that's why I divided the part 1 into further different small parts. So part 1a, part 1b, part 1c, part 1d, and so on. So it will be easy for you to understand the topic easily, and you'll be able to digest the topic easily. So that's why I divided the part 1 into different parts. So in part 1, classical conditioning, so far we have learned what actually is classical conditioning, who discovered classical conditioning, how that person discovered classical conditioning. We learn about Ivan Pavlov and his experiments with dogs. We also learn about what are the elements of classical conditioning. Then we learn about conditioned stimulus, unconditioned stimulus, conditioned response, unconditioned response, neutral stimulus, and how these things works, how the classical conditioning works. And we also learn about stimulus generalization and stimulus discrimination in the classical conditioning. And after that, we learn about extinction and spontaneous recovery in classical conditioning. And we also learn about higher order conditioning and vicarious learning and so on. So if you have missed any of the previous lecture, I have given all the links in the description section. Go ahead, click on those links and watch those videos. You can also visit the playlist section of my YouTube channel, where I have compiled all the videos in a proper separate playlist for your ease. You can also visit my website journalist.com, where you can click on watch online and you will get all the links of the previous lectures in a proper sequence. Still, if you face any problem, any difficulty, you can ask me in the comment section and I'll be happy to help you out. So in this video, we will be learning about some other conditioned responses in humans. The first one is conditioned taste aversion, and after that we will learn about biological preparedness. So let's talk about other conditioned responses in humans. Okay, so are there any foods that you just can't eat anymore because of a bad experience with them? Believe it or not, your reaction to that food is a kind of classical conditioning. So if I start with a proper definition of conditioned taste aversion, so the definition would include it is a development of a nausea or aversive response to a particular taste because that taste was followed by a nausea reaction occurring after only one association. Many experiments have shown that laboratory rats will develop a conditioned taste aversion for any liquid or food they swallow up to 6 hours before becoming nauseated. Now, researchers found that rats that were given a sweetened liquid and then injected with a drug or exposed to a radiation that caused nausea would not touch that liquid again. In similar manner, alcoholics who are given a drug to make them nauseated, when they drink alcohol, may learn to avoid drinking alcohol or beverages. Now, another term is biological preparedness. If I start with a proper definition, basically biological preparedness, conditioned taste aversions are an example of something called biological preparedness. And the definition would include referring to the tendency of animals to learn certain associations, such as taste and nausea, with only one or few appearing due to the survival value of the learning. Now, most mammals who find their food by smell and taste will learn to avoid any food that smells or tastes like something that they ate just before becoming ill. And it is a survival mechanism because if they kept on eating a bad food, they might die. So the mammalian body seems to be prepared to associate smell and taste with getting sick. Now, although most conditioning requires repeating pairing of conditioned stimulus with unconditioned stimulus when the response is nausea, one pairing seems to be all that is necessary. Taste aversion conditioning is so effective that it has even been used by renowned psychologist Dr. John Garcia and colleagues as a tool to stop coyotes from killing ranchers' sheep and also to stop the ranchers from wiping out the coyote population entirely. Now, Garcia and his fellow researchers laced sheep meat with lithium chloride and left it for the coyote to find. So the coyote ate the drugged meat and got extremely sick and avoided eating sheep for quite some time afterwards. So the coyotes got to live and the ranchers got to keep their sheep. Now it's interesting to note that birds which find their food by sight will avoid any object or insects that simply looks like the one that made them sick. Now there is a certain species of moth with coloring that mimics the monarch butterfly. The butterfly is poisonous to birds, but the moth isn't. The moth's mimicry causes birds to avoid eating them, even though they are quite edible. So, whereas mammals are biologically prepared to associate taste with illness, birds are biologically prepared to associate visual characteristics with illness. So this was all about today's video. If your concept is clear, you can like the video. If there was any point which was confusing, you did not get it, you can ask me in the comment section and we'll be happy to help you out. Plus, if you're new to this channel, you can subscribe to our channel, subscribe to Dear Knowledge, click on the bell icon so you will never ever miss any notification. You can also share the link of this video with your family members and friends because sharing is caring. Until then, Allah Hafiz.